Leadership Across Cultures, Victoria Gonzalez, California Baptist University, Online and Professional Studies. One of the significant cultural issues affecting leaderships that I have identified in this generation of leaders is a lack of understanding of culture and succession planning. In this presentation, we will briefly cover succession planning, lack of understanding from leadership, changing culture, and training current leaders. There are some leaders that don't seem to understand that the world is changing and becoming more diversified. Leaders are lacking vision. They have forgotten that the companies and organizations will continue to operate long after they retire. The lack of understanding on how to deal with the diversity and the female leadership by most male leaders is being overlooked, and many women with great potential are not being considered for future leadership roles. This lack of acceptance of women in leadership will affect these organizations' future success. With the change in the landscape, they need to understand how we deal with people who are different from them in gender and culture. This lack of understanding culture is not just happening with private organizations, but in public organizations as well. 20 years ago, when many of the baby boomer generations retired from the workforce, they trained the leaders of today. Most of the successors were chosen to carry the legacy that these retirees were leaving behind, choosing for the most part male leaders, those that resembled their type of leadership style. Due to this type of leadership, we see the promotion for female leaders in most organizations has been slow, even though the landscape of most organizations' first and second tier workforce are filled with female employees. This also includes females from all cultures. In many cases, due to their lack of understanding in the leadership, diversity from these leaders, organizations have suffered from the discrimination lawsuits. Furthermore, their lack of understanding these differences has caused current leadership to fail in the development of their workforce by not appreciating this type of diversity. In this pool of unappreciated, overlooked group of female workers exists female of color, nationality, and religion. The misunderstanding of the potential behind cultural diversification is the cause of lack of information and/or training. Most of these male successors began their career in the late 80s and 90s. There was but a few female employees, all in non-leadership positions. For the Bureau of Labor Statistics around this time, there was over 60% of women working full-time. It states, by 1999, women reached the peak of their labor force participation, 60%. Since then, however, labor force participation among women has declined. It is no wonder that male-dominating positions remain the status quo, and some type of diversity and training has only been implemented in the last recent years. However, changing population demographics, both locally and globally, suggest that our model leadership and cadre of leaders need to be less ethnocentric and more diverse if we are to be successful in responding to these rapid changes in leadership needs. The leaders of today should be dealing with succession planning and looking for those leaders that will lead the workforce of tomorrow. In this global and diverse economy, it is becoming more important to understand the wants and needs of those we serve both internal and externally. Internally, we deal with our diverse workforce, and it is made up of mostly millennials, and most come from different backgrounds, cultures, from immigrant households. In an article written by Meinster and Williard from the Harvard Business Review, we find that it states the makeup of the global workforce is undergoing a seismic shift. And for years, millennials, the people born between 1977 and 1997, will account for nearly half the employees in the world. In some companies, they already constitute a majority. The article also mentions that millennials are attention sponges and need constant coaching and mentoring. This type of leadership fits right into with the qualities of female leadership. According to Chin and Timbrell, modern transformation leadership take a different approach. Leaders today are required to be more teacher-like and coach-like, motivating rather than threatening, inspiring embodiment of the corporate values rather than autocratic enforcers. These are the qualities that match women's leadership style very well. This future generation of millennials will need more of a coach-like motivators rather than the autocratic leaders of yesteryear. I believe that these leaders that are presently looking to groom those to be their successors would benefit from receiving training in cultural leadership, training and development. With this type of training, they will be able to assess their future needs and equip their leadership base accordingly. They would be able to utilize the SWOT analysis to identify and establish a plan with goals, objectives, and action steps. Chin and Timbrell also quote, managing organizational diversity requires addressing the 3 C's of diversity, which I believe they're really important, which is composition of workforce and clientele, core of the business products and services, and the workplace climate. This can be done through system audits for organizational diversity, setting goals and targets, and measuring outcomes. All points considered, I believe leaders enacting succession planning need to be made aware of the consequences of their choices when selecting their apprentices. Organizations should provide diversity training to their leaders for them to understand the differences of cultures and the current and future cultural leadership styles they will need in place to lead their organizations. As a result of this training, leaders will learn to appreciate the female diversity that already exists in their pool of employees and consider these females for leadership roles. Leadership that have a high level of cultural understanding play an important role in bridging divides and knowledge gaps in organizations. Change is constant. Leaders can use their cultural intelligence to lead organizations and those they lead towards finding a strategy and solutions to their cultural and gender diversity issues of today and for the future generations. Thank you for your attention to this presentation. I hope you enjoyed it.